Welcome back to another episode of the Casey Campbell Podcast. Casey Campbell with you, of course, and we are pleased to be joined by a regular guest on this podcast, the one, the only, Mr. Charlie Krall, who is the public relations director and the manager of communications, or what title you want to call him, for the Arca Menard series. And he also broadcasts the East and West races on Track Pass. So there
multi-talented, Track Pass. Multi-talented. I got the Arca Menard's logo, Track Pass logo. I'm covered, right?
Yes, you are. Charlie, of course, thank you so much for doing this. So we've gotten past Daytona. We've had two East races so far. How do you think the series is going in these first few months?
Really happy with the way our season has started off with the Arca Menard series. We had a great entry list at Daytona. Looking at the entry list for Phoenix, not ready to release it publicly just yet, but a pretty solid entry list out west as well. I'm ecstatic with the way that has started. We had a great start to the East series this year too. We had a phenomenal race at New Smyrna Speedway. We followed it up with a pretty fun race down at Five Flags, a couple of first-time winners in Max Gutierrez and Sammy Smith. I know people are going to point to the car count. We're very aware, just like we have been aware the last year or so. We're working on it. That's all I can say about that side of things. But while we are working on it, we still want to put on great races. And we've had two really fun races with that group here in 2021. So we're going to keep doing that throughout the rest of the season. Fully aware that there are some things behind the scenes that we're working on, but the on-track product, man, I think we have had a really great start to the season, and I'm looking forward to Phoenix coming up here next Friday.
So in terms of the car count, how are you guys reaching out to teams and with new cars and potentially getting the Gen 6 cars, which will soon be obsolete after this season, of course, with the new next gen car coming in?
Well, really what we want to work on, Casey, is getting those old Gen 5 cars out of the garages and into race shops and into the racetrack. There are a lot of Gen 5 cars that are not racing right now. That's really what we're focused on, is getting those eligible to compete. And making it so that it's kind of a fair fight. The majority of our equipment is still the Gen 4 style chassis that has been updated over the years to wear some Gen 6 style bodywork. But we've got a lot of really great people behind the scenes. Tony Glover and his group working really hard on making that happen. That's going to be the key to this whole thing, Casey, is we've got to find a way to get those race cars that are going to be made obsolete here in the next couple of years. We want to get them racing with us, and we're working hard at doing just that. So, there are some brighter days down the road as far as car count is concerned, and I think that will make a lot of people happy in Twitter land. But like I said, as far as we're concerned, we had two really good East races to start the season, and we're very, very happy with how that competition played out. I'm a believer. I think you need to have a full field of race cars to have a great show. But I've been around ARCA my whole life, Case, and I can remember back in the day where you'd go to a short track race and there'd be 22 cars and two of them had a shot to win. Right now let's just say we've got 20 cars that show up and 10 of them have a shot to win and 15 of them have a shot to race into the top 10. I'll take that enhanced competition at the front of the field any day. I really will. It's been a lot of fun to see some of these young kids come out here in top-notch equipment, fighting for the win week in and week out. And like I said, we'll let the tech guys and the nuts and bolts guys worry about getting that car count built up, and we're going to really focus on putting on the best show that we can, and then I'll do my job at talking about it.
Okay, so where do you think because everyone, the notion is that ARCA's in big trouble, ARCA's going to be gone in 5 years. What makes you can you put that to bed and say where the series is going to be at?
I mean, I can't tell you where we're going to be at, but what I can tell you is this series has been around since 1953. Okay, back in 1981, when our series founder John Markham died unexpectedly on a race weekend, um, we didn't really know what was going to happen. You know, we came back in 1982 with 8 races. That was all we had scheduled, and they were all, you know, other than the race at Daytona, they were all 100 lappers on short tracks here in the Midwest, and some of them had 8 or 10 cars. I mean, it was tough times, and we bounced back in 1983 with renewed support from NASCAR and their tracks. We had great fields of race cars, and you know, it's a wave. Sometimes the wave's up, sometimes it's down, sometimes it's up, sometimes it's down. That's just how it's gone like that in every racing series in the country, Case. So yeah, my answer to that is I'm going to point back to May of 1953 and say we've been here since then. We're going to run our 1500th race coming up in a couple of months. I don't see, you know, I understand why people might ask that question, but I don't understand where the certainty of the answer comes in, because this organization has been around now, going on 70 years. It's pretty darn impressive, and I don't think we're going to go away anytime soon. I know that we are a very important part of NASCAR's strategy moving forward.
Yeah.
So I'm comfortable with my position in this sport. I'm comfortable with where ARCA is going to continue to fit, and yeah, I look forward to seeing right where we're going to be 5 years from now, because I think it's going to look a little different than it does right now.
Where do you think the East and West series are going to be at?
I hope that they will be doing exactly what they're doing right now, but as we just talked about, with a little bit healthier car count, and I think that will happen. I really think that this is the vision that Ron Drager and Steve O'Donnell and Steve Phelps and everybody at NASCAR has for those 2 regional series to kind of feed into the main ARCA Menard series, and yet they're still going to come and compete together, you know, in those showdown races. You know, we need to have that middle ground between, you know, weekly touring style racing at your local short tracks and professional stock car racing. You know, honestly, the worst thing I think we could do is take someone who has achieved some success at their local short track and immediately throw them to the wolves in the Camping World Truck Series. I think you've got to find a way to bridge that, just like you have in baseball or basketball, you know, professional hockey. There are steps that you have to take to get to play in the big leagues. And I think ARCA plays a very important role in being able to become a professional race car driver. And I see that continuing on into the future.
When you look at, let's talk about, you know, recently BMR had an announcement that they're going to do the Drivers Academy, and that partnering with NASCAR and ARCA as well. What are your thoughts on that? And do you think that will help in terms of, you know, the West Series and stuff?
I sure hope so. You know, Bill McAnally has been a part of that West stock car scene for a quarter of a century. He is someone whose opinion we value and we trust, and he says this is the right thing to do out there. And who am I going to disagree with Bill McAnally? You know, so I think it's cool. It's going to give a shot to some folks that wouldn't have been able to maybe come out and run a limited schedule in the West. It'll get their feet wet. It'll give them a taste of this is what this equipment is like. And maybe that opens some doors. I think it's great. I really do. And they're going to compete to get to come and race in the ARCA Menard Series West a handful of times throughout the course of the year. I think it's a great thing. And Bill, if you've ever met him, pretty dynamic dude. I enjoy every time I get a chance to bump into him at the racetrack, and he's full of ideas. And I think this is just the latest in a long line of pretty good ideas that he's had over the years.
So in terms of, you know, with car count and stuff, where do you think a number is with ARCA? What would be satisfied with in terms of regular ARCA and then East and West? is there a
Well, Casey, I
number?
don't know that we're going to achieve anything that we're satisfied with. You're never satisfied. I think you'll see pretty early on in the season, you'll know where we're going to be. It'll probably be pretty close to where we were last year. But I think as we do get this situation with those Gen 5 cars kind of ironed out, I think we'll start to see that improve in the very near future. I'm still a big believer in the Ilmor engine program and the Yates spec engine program. Those are very, well, I'm not going to say very, but relatively low cost initiatives that allow people to come out and compete on a level playing field. The 5-star composite bodies they've done exactly what we've asked them to do. Our partners at General Tire give us a good quality tire all the pieces are in place. You get the car, we're going to give you a platform to come out and compete at the same exact level as Joe Gibbs Racing and Venerini Motorsports. And I think that's really all you can ask for at this point. I mean, look at what we had last year with Brett Holmes. Brett is that is a family-owned team that 2 years ago was about ready to call it quits because they weren't having any fun. And they made a couple of very strategic hires. And 2 years later, they're celebrating a championship. And now look what Brett's doing here this season. He's off. He's going to run with us, but he's also going to run in the Camping World Truck Series. It's exactly what this platform is meant to be. So I think as we continue to go forward here, Casey, you're going to see people do exactly that.
So, I mean, you look at there are new teams coming in. Of course, you have, teams like Joe Gibbs Racing and Venturini,
Right.
and then you have GMS and David Gillen Racing. In terms of getting teams to come in, I know that Young's Motorsports is going to be dipping their toes into ARCA as well.
Yep.
What is something that your guys are talking to teams about and trying to get them to run ARCA programs?
I just told you it's the engine program with the Ilmor engine and the Yates spec engine program. It's the 5-star bodies that you slap the wall in practice. It takes you a couple hours and you're back ready to rock and roll. You're not going to have to spend $80,000 reskinning a car, or even $20,000 to reskin a car. You can do it in a couple hours. It's the General Tires that we compete with that are extremely reliable, and we're putting you on a level playing field. A team like Young's Motorsports can come in with a good car and with some good people and a good driver and compete at the exact same level that Joe Gibbs Racing is competing at. I think that is key. I think it really is. You don't need to have a huge budget to come out here and compete with those guys. That our success story is last year's champion. Brett Holmes is exactly that type of story that we want to tell. And if you're sitting there watching, I'm just going to use my previous recent experience. If you're down at the World Series of Asphalt and you're running a late model and you're wondering what's next, what can we go and do? We want to be that next step, man. And our champion last year showed it can be done. You can come out here and compete with these guys and straight up go to battle with them and come home with a championship.
In terms of, tracks and scheduling, of course, we had you on earlier to talk about the schedule when the schedule was released for ARCA as well as East and West. In terms of tracks and stuff, because there were a couple tracks that ARCA did come back to and people were like, whoa, that's interesting. Of course, Iowa, Milwaukee Mile, those kinds of tracks that are having on there. It's a very diverse schedule. Is that kind of like what ARCA wanted to do to have the test out there?
We have always had a diverse schedule. I mean, for years, and I still believe to this day, we've had the most diverse schedule in stock car racing, whether it's going to a 3/8 mile like Elko Speedway, to a 2.66 mile track like Talladega, and everything in between. The Toledos, the Salems, the Winchesters, the Madisons, although Madison, isn't on the schedule for this year, but we've raced there in the recent past. Bristol, DeCoin and Springfield, 2 1-mile dirt tracks. We've got a pair of road courses. When you look at the East and the West, we go to a place like Southern National Speedway, which hasn't been on this type of a schedule in its entire history. We go to places like Irwindale and Colorado National. We really do want to give you that type of diversity, because you're here to learn. You're here to win races, but if you're a driver like Jesse Love, you're here to learn, man. You want to get all that experience, as much of it as you can, before you take that next step in your career. And just look at those guys in the recent past, Casey: Christian Eckes, Sheldon Creed. Those two right there are what this deal is all about. They have made that next step. And, Sheldon went up and took that Truck Series championship last year. We're extraordinarily proud of that. And he wouldn't have been able to go and compete at that high level if not for that experience that he gained while he was here running that diverse schedule in the ARCA Menard Series.
Yeah. So when you look at, in terms of, getting Toledo on the schedule, it wasn't on there this year. How important is Toledo to ARCA? I know you're from the area and currently live in the area. So,
it's our home track, man. So the reason why we moved that race around last year is we wanted it to be the cornerstone of that East Series schedule for 2020. We wanted to show other event promoters, hey, we believe in what we're doing. We believe in it so much, we're going to take it off of this schedule and put it on this schedule. And of course, we ended up running, how many different ARCA Menard Series races at Toledo Speedway last year.
Well, let me go to one of them.
Right, but it is very important to what we do here. Anybody who knows the folks who work in this building, we have a very strong tie to those who have come before us, and there's a lot of history that has happened with the ARCA Menard Series at Toledo Speedway. There's a lot of history that has happened. Obviously, this is where we were founded back in 1953. ARCA was founded right here in Toledo, Ohio. So it's very important that we race here in some form or fashion in the Toledo market. And coming up May 22nd, get your tickets now, man.
Yeah, I'll be there.
All right, let's make it happen.
So Milwaukee Mile, you brought that back for the first time since 2007. What made you guys decide to do that?
So that race is being promoted by our friends at Track Enterprises. That is something that they have wanted to do for many years. Milwaukee, it's a great racetrack. It's got a lot of grandstand seats, man. It's a phenomenal market. There's a lot of race fans up in that neck of the woods. It's very close to Eau Claire, Wisconsin, where our partners at Menards are located. It's a very strategic place to be. And we're very, very pleased to be back there for the first time since 2007. That's going to be a great event. Like I said, Track Enterprises, I think, has 3 big racing weekends up there this year, and we're tickled that we're one of them.
Yeah. So, and also one more thing.
Just one?
Well, there might be more. So fans at the racetrack was, of course, as the country begins to, recover from COVID, as restrictions loosen in some states. Are you confident that these events can have fans at all the races this year?
I can't answer that question, Casey, because the answer to that is 20 different answers, because the ARCA Menard Series is going to race at 20 different racetracks. My answer is I cannot wait until we get back to these racetracks and they're able to run at 100% capacity. But that is totally out of our hands. It's going to be up to the local health departments and local governments in each and every one of those local race markets. I am a very big believer in being cautious and doing everything that I can to prevent myself from becoming ill and to keep my children healthy and to keep my significant other healthy. I hope everybody else is doing the same. If they tell me that I can go to a race at Toledo Speedway, but I have to sit in the grandstand and wear a mask, I'm going to wear a mask, and I'm going to be happy to do it because I would rather be at the racetrack wearing my mask than not being at the racetrack at all. So just be patient with us. That's what I want people to understand. This is what we do. We put on races. We can't do it without the support of the race fans. We don't want you to stay home. The reason we did the races the way we had to last year is that's what we had to do. But this year we do anticipate that we will be able to have fans in the grandstands for many of them in some form or fashion. We just ask that you please cooperate with your local government and your local health department's regulations. Understand that it's not the racetrack who is putting those regulations into place. They're just following the rules that they have to follow in order to have that event run in the first place. So yeah, man, we are really looking forward to that day when these restrictions no longer exist. But for now, they're and we're gonna do everything we can to live within those guidelines. We do not want to be the one sport in this country that gets shut down because we were irresponsible. We take a very, very a tremendous amount of pride that we didn't have any issues last year. There were times where we could have, and we didn't. We went into some markets and we were very strategic and we were very, very careful, and everybody was happy, everybody was healthy, and we put on a lot of great races. Unfortunately, the only way to watch some of those was via FS1 or MAV TV, but we want people in the grandstands. We want people to watch from home. But more important than anything, we want everybody to stay healthy so they can continue to watch for years and years to come. So follow those rules and regulations, Casey.
I will. Oh, I have.
Right. You better. I know where you live, man.
Which kind of leads into my next question. Of course, NASCAR was one of the first sports to come back after the shutdown. Of course, NASCAR as well as ARCA has taken very strict precautions to make sure these races come. And like you said, you didn't have any issues, but I know you've had trying to find venues and working with health and governments with that, trying to put on races last year. How challenging was that to really, do it?
It was a huge challenge, Case. It was one of the most difficult and trying seasons that I'm just going to speak for everybody in every racing category and every sports category. It is the most challenging season most of us will ever have ever. There were so many different hurdles to jump, whether it was, how are we going to pay for this? How are we going to, how can we justify going to a race that has no fans in the stands? That is an impossible question for so many different people. And thankfully, with the support of our racetracks, our race teams, our series sponsors, our team sponsors, everybody, we found a way to do it. We had to move some around. That's never fun. I mean, the reason why we put a schedule out every December is this is where we want to race. And we had to move them around quite a bit. And that stinks for everybody. It stinks for the racetracks that weren't able to have their races. It stinks for the fans in those areas. It's tough for the teams. It's tough for the sponsors who, are looking to get exposure in those markets. But we pulled it off, man. Like I said, we have a tremendously passionate group of people that work here day in and day out. I can't tell you how many times I have driven by this office at 8 o'clock on a Saturday night, and there's a couple of cars still in the parking lot. One of them is not mine. I'm out goofing off, but there are people still here working. That's how much this means to them. It was very, very challenging, yet we still found a way to do it.
Okay. We got a race next weekend at Phoenix, which is
Right.
also for the ARCA Menard Series, and it
Right.
will also be the opener for the ARCA Menard Series West.
Right.
Just kind of, what are we going to expect from that race, you think?
I think we'll see a pretty healthy entry list. Nearly 30 cars, I think, will be entered for that one. I think you'll see the usual suspects up at the front of the field. It'll probably be Ty Gibbs and Corey Heim and Jack Wood and those characters up near the front. I'm hoping my friend Gracie goes out and has a great race. I'm a big fan of hers. I'm a fan of everybody, but I like that storyline. I would love to be able to tell that story of a first female winner in the overall Arca Menard series. So I'll be pulling for her to do well. I think you'll see some West teams come out there and have some pretty solid runs as well. Bill McAnally Racing will have 3 cars out there. Derek Kraus will make his return to the series. So yeah, I think you'll see a very competitive race. You'll see a lot of race cars out there, and yeah, I can't quite pick a winner just yet, Casey, but I think it's going to be a very, very entertaining show. Of course, that one will be live on MAV TV this year, the first time MAV has broadcast live from Phoenix in the history of our partnership with them. And that'll start at 7:30 Eastern next Friday night.
Yeah, we'll be looking forward to that. Well, Charlie, thank you so much for spending some time with us. And
you got it.
We're going to be in for a great race. Of course, don't forget to save big money at Menards, and
right.
that Reese's sweet move that you guys came up with.
Yeah, man. How about it? I've nailed that the last couple of weeks on those East broadcasts, haven't I? Huh?
Yeah, you have.
Yeah, they pay me in chocolate and peanut butter. You know that, right?
All right. Okay. We'll talk to you later, Charlie.
You got it, Casey. Thanks, pal.